Right now, $124 trillion is about to change hands. It is the largest wealth transfer in human history, and 70% of the families who receive it will lose everything. This is not a prediction. This is happening right now. Baby boomers control over 75% of America's wealth. Over the next 20 to 30 years, that money, those properties, those investments, all of it is passing down to Gen X and Millennials. And according to the latest research from Cerulli Associates and Coldwell Banker, we are talking about $124 trillion. That includes $2.4 trillion in real estate in the United States alone over the next decade. But here is the devastating part. According to a YMG National Trust, 70% of inherited wealth is completely depleted by the second generation. And by the third generation, that number reaches 90%. 90%. Generational wealth, built over decades, evaporated in just 2 generations. Today, I am going to show you the 7 most costly inheritance mistakes that are destroying family wealth in 2026. More importantly, I am going to show you exactly how to avoid each one. Whether you are expecting an inheritance, you have already received one, or you are planning to leave one behind, these are the traps you absolutely must know about. Now, before we dive in, I want to be transparent. I am not a certified financial advisor. I am someone who has spent years researching legacy planning and financial independence after being laid off at 51. What I share comes from extensive research and my own journey. For your specific situation, always consult a qualified professional. Let us get into it. And stay until the end, because mistake number 7 is the one that catches even the smartest families off guard. Mistake number 1. The emotional spending trap. Mistake number 1. The emotional spending trap. When you suddenly receive a large sum of money, whether it is from an inheritance, a settlement, or any windfall, your brain does something interesting. Psychologists call it the windfall effect. You mentally categorize this money differently than money you earned. And because of that, you spend it differently, usually faster, usually bigger, usually without a plan. The American Bankruptcy Institute reports that a staggering proportion of lottery winners end up bankrupt. And while an inheritance is not the lottery, the psychological pattern is identical. You wake up wealthier than you were yesterday, and the temptation to upgrade your lifestyle is overwhelming. Here is what the research says you should do instead. Give yourself a cooling-off period. Financial experts recommend waiting at least 6 to 12 months before making any major financial decisions with inherited money. Park the funds in a high-yield savings account or money market fund. Let the emotions settle. Let the grief process if you have lost someone. And only then, with a clear head, start making strategic decisions. Think of it this way. The money has been building for decades. It can wait 6 more months while you create a proper plan. Mistake number 2. The tax time bomb. Ignoring the tax time bomb. This is where I see people lose tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands, simply because they did not understand the tax implications of their inheritance. And in 2026, the rules have changed. Here is what most people do not realize. Different inherited assets are taxed completely differently. If you inherit a traditional IRA or a 401k, those withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income because they were funded with pre-tax dollars. That means if you inherit a $500,000 IRA and withdraw it all at once, you could be looking at a tax bill of $150,000 or more, depending on your tax bracket. But here is where it gets even more complicated. Under the Secure Act, most non-spouse beneficiaries must now withdraw the entire inherited IRA within 10 years. That is not optional. That is the law. And if you do not plan those withdrawals strategically across those 10 years, you could push yourself into a much higher tax bracket in certain years, paying far more in taxes than necessary. Meanwhile, the federal estate tax exemption for 2026 has increased to $15 million per individual. That means most families will not owe federal estate tax. But do not let that fool you. State estate taxes and inheritance taxes are a completely different story, and they kick in at much lower thresholds. Now, if you are finding this valuable, I want to ask you something. Have you thought about what would happen to your family's wealth if it was passed down without a plan? Drop a comment below and tell me your biggest concern about inheritance, whether you are the one leaving it or the one receiving it. I read every comment, and I will try to help where I can. Mistake number 3. The family pressure trap. This one is uncomfortable to talk about, but it might be the most important. When word gets out that you have received an inheritance, and trust me, word always gets out, people come calling. Family members, friends, sometimes people you have not heard from in years. They need a loan. They have a business opportunity. They have a sob story. And saying no to people you love is one of the hardest things you will ever do. But saying yes to everyone is a guaranteed path to depleting your inheritance. I have seen families torn apart not by the lack of money, but by the presence of it. Here is the strategy that works. Hire a financial professional and make them the gatekeeper. When someone asks you for money, you say, "I would love to help, but my financial advisor manages all of that now. Let me have them look at it." This does two things. First, it removes the emotional pressure from you. Second, it ensures that any financial decisions are evaluated objectively. Some families also establish formal lending policies. If you want to help a family member, structure it as a proper loan with terms, interest, and documentation. This protects both the relationship and the money. Mistake number 4. Missing the step up in basis. This is the hidden benefit that could save you tens of thousands of dollars, and most people have no idea it exists. Here is how it works. Let us say your parents bought a house in 1985 for $100,000. Today, that house is worth $500,000. If your parents sold it while alive, they would owe capital gains tax on the $400,000 gain. At a 15% capital gains rate, that is $60,000 in taxes. But here is the magic. When you inherit that house, the cost basis steps up to the fair market value at the time of your parents' passing. So if the house is worth $500,000 when you inherit it, your new cost basis is $500,000. If you sell it for $500,000, your capital gain is zero. $0 in capital gains tax. This applies to stocks, real estate, and many other assets. But here is where people make the mistake. They do not get a proper appraisal at the time of inheritance. Without documentation of the fair market value at the date of death, you cannot prove your stepped-up basis. And the IRS will not just take your word for it. Action step. For every asset you inherit, get a professional appraisal within 90 days of the date of death. This one step could save you tens of thousands of dollars. Mistake number 5. The inherited IRA disaster. I touched on this briefly in mistake number 2, but this deserves its own section because it is one of the most expensive mistakes I see. And the rules changed dramatically with the Secure Act. Before the Secure Act, if you inherited an IRA, you could stretch distributions over your entire lifetime. This was called the Stretch IRA, and it was one of the most powerful wealth-building tools in existence. A 30-year-old inheriting $1 million IRA could take small required minimum distributions over 50 years, letting the bulk of the money continue growing tax-deferred. That is gone. Now, most non-spouse beneficiaries must empty the inherited IRA within 10 years. And here is where the disaster happens. Many people either do not know about this rule or they wait until year 10 to withdraw everything, creating a massive tax bill in a single year. The smart strategy is to plan your withdrawals across all 10 years, ideally in years when your other income is lower. Some people coordinate inherited IRA withdrawals with years they expect lower income, such as between jobs, during a sabbatical, or in early retirement before Social Security kicks in. If you are learning things in this video that you did not know before, you are not alone. Most people have never been taught how inheritance actually works. That is exactly why I created this channel. Every week, I break down complex financial topics like inheritance planning, estate strategies, and financial independence into simple, actionable steps. Hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next video where I am going to break down tax-free retirement strategies that most people overlook. Mistake number 6. No updated financial plan. Failing to update your financial plan. This is what a YMG National Trust calls the greatest mistake an inheritor can make. And I agree completely. If your financial situation changes dramatically, and receiving an inheritance is about as dramatic as it gets, your entire financial plan needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. Think about it. How much were you saving for retirement before the inheritance? What investment strategies are now available to you that were not before? What dreams seemed impossible that might now be within reach? Here is the framework I recommend. First, calculate your new total net worth including the inheritance. Second, reassess your retirement timeline. Could you retire earlier? Third, review your insurance needs. Your coverage requirements may have changed. Fourth, update your own estate plan. Yes, you need one too. Fifth, Set new investment allocation targets based on your updated risk profile and timeline. Without this updated plan, you are essentially driving a new car with an old map. You might get somewhere, but it probably will not be where you want to go. Mistake number 7. Failing to protect the legacy. And finally, mistake number 7. This is the one that catches even the smartest families off guard. Failing to protect the legacy itself. Remember that statistic I mentioned at the beginning? 70% gone by Generation 2. 90% gone by Generation 3. Why does this happen? It is not because the next generation is irresponsible. It is because the wealth was transferred without transferring the knowledge, values, and systems that created it in the first place. The families that preserve wealth across generations do something fundamentally different. They do not just pass down money. They pass down financial literacy. They have regular family meetings about money. They create family mission statements. They establish governance structures for family wealth. They teach the next generation not just how to spend, but how to grow, protect, and steward wealth. Here is what I have learned from studying families that successfully preserve wealth. The money is actually the easy part. The hard part is building the family culture around that money, and that starts with conversations. Honest, sometimes uncomfortable conversations about values, expectations, responsibilities, and dreams. If you are planning to leave an inheritance, start those conversations now. Do not wait until the reading of the will. By then, it is too late. And if you have received an inheritance, honor the person who left it to you by building the systems that will protect it for the next generation. Action Plan Summary. Let me bring this all together with your action plan. Here are the 7 mistakes and exactly what to do about each one. Mistake number 1, the emotional spending trap. Wait 6 to 12 months before making any major decisions. Park the money in a high-yield savings account. Mistake number 2, the tax time bomb. Understand how each inherited asset is taxed differently. Plan inherited IRA withdrawals strategically across 10 years. Mistake number 3, the family pressure trap. Hire a financial advisor as your gatekeeper. Structure any family help as formal loans. Mistake number 4, missing the step-up in basis. Get professional appraisals within 90 days of the date of death for every inherited asset. Mistake number 5, the inherited IRA disaster. Spread withdrawals across all 10 years. Coordinate with low-income years. Mistake number 6, no updated financial plan. Rebuild your entire financial plan from the ground up using the 5-step framework. Mistake number 7, failing to protect the legacy. Transfer knowledge and values, not just money. Start family wealth conversations now. The great wealth transfer is not coming. It is here. $124 trillion is changing hands right now. The question is not whether your family will be part of it. The question is whether your family will be in the 30% that preserves that wealth or the 70% that loses it. Now, if you found this valuable, make sure you check out my video on Estate Planning 101, the Gen X Guide, where I break down the 5 essential documents every family needs. I will put the link right here. And if you have a question about inheritance planning, drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Until next time, this is Silver Compass, helping you navigate your financial future.